Hello, Mr. President. This is Mr. President. If you have anybody who is also listening to my message, you and I will need to explain to them my greeting to you as Mr. President and referring to myself as Mr. President. When you first became president of the organization there in Israel, I reminded you of one of my favorite movies in which that wonderful Golda Meir, uh, you remember in the movie, when the planes flying over Israel were actually running out of fuel, and there was a desperate need. And that wonderful Golda, the name of the movie was even Golda for her first name. She picked up the phone, and the next scene in the movie, the telephone was ringing at the White House. And President Nixon picked up the phone, and that remarkable Golda Meir said, "Hello, Mr. President." She proceeded to say that it was desperately needed for American planes to refuel the Israeli planes in midair because it was so important that they could win that war. And so when you became president, I began any telephone conversation that we had over the years by saying, "Hello, Mr. President." And always when you've called me here in Texas, you always start out by greeting me with, "Hello, Mr. President." I think, dear Gideon, how happy a mutual friend of yours and mine would be, Minyan Eisenberg, whose American home was in Chicago, but like Tony Bennett, who sang, "I left my heart in San Francisco," Minyan's heart really was in Israel. And that's where her remains are buried next to her husband. Israel, of course, has always been very special to me and will forever be special to us in the United States of America. In 1996, Viktor Frankl said to me, "Come soon, Bob, or we will have to postpone our reunion until we are together in heaven someday." And I think that we have been so blessed by being able to promote the work of Viktor Frankl throughout the world. And in a recent message that I sent to you in Israel, I said that when Dr. Frankl gave me his blessing at the time we met in person for the last time in 1996, a year before his death in 97, I promised him that I would spend the remaining energies of my life helping to promote his work throughout the world. You have done so very much of that work, Gideon. The work of helping to organize the institute there in Israel. I know that our mutual friend Minyan Eisenberg has an awareness, surely the Spirit, which is eternal, and the Spirit has an awareness of what we are doing. I heard in a sermon this last Sunday that God is watching from the balcony of heaven what his children are doing. And I would like, however presumptuous it might be, to say that you are being watched over. All you have done to help promote the work of Viktor Frankl in Israel and elsewhere in the world is being blessed by the Creator of all of us, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob indeed. You have served faithfully along with your with your precious, I'm trying to say, you have served so generously along with the precious Judith, as you pronounce her name, and you've brought such joy and such leadership to the Viktor Frankl Institute of Logotherapy that is headquartered in the United States. I think of the many world congresses that you've come to, and even though you are approaching your 80th birthday, you have been loved by the youngest people at the Congress. One night when we'd had just such a wonderful Congress all week long there in Dallas, and we were on such an overload, intellectual, spiritual, emotional overload, we simply had to have some fun on Saturday night. So we were having what we called our Texas line dance, and you didn't get out on the dance floor, and people of all ages were yelling for you like a group of kids. They were saying, Gideon, 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 because they wanted you to join them on the dance floor. And I think of the times that you and Judith and I have labored and loved the challenges that awaited us. I was so thankful when you were willing to provide leadership in organizing an association of Viktor Frankl there in Israel. And when you all became a full-fledged affiliate of the Institute headquartered in the United States, you've done a wonderful piece of work. You've been so generous with your time and with your, frankly, with your finances in helping to make this possible. Beyond that, I would like to say that when we have been on the telephone together, even with an 8-hour time difference, very often it would be midnight in Texas and 8 o'clock in the morning in Israel. And we would always end our conversations remembering that he who watches over Israel slumbers not nor sleeps. And we would always remind each other that we pray to the same God. It is to that God that I pray for you and your dear Judith to be watched over, for God's healing love always to bring strength and good health and buoyancy of spirit to you and Judith, and that your legacy there in Israel will be acknowledged and appreciated throughout the world. I am also so very indebted to Mrs. Haya Horvitz, such a beautiful lady whose strength has also been a blessing to the work of logotherapy and spreading the work of Viktor Frankl, and then always to someone who is regarded here in America and everywhere else that she is known, and that is that precious Dr. Taria Chantal. I've told you before that the people here at our World Congresses say that when Dr. Chantal goes through the corridors of the hotel at our World Congress, it is as if she were an angel simply flying just a little bit above us. You have so many people in your organization there. As you choose to retire from the office of president, you are leaving a legacy into the hands of capable, caring people. And in my heart, you and Judith will always have a very special place. We wish, as you enter a new decade of your life, that you will have an increased awareness of the legacy and the eternal gifts that your offerings and your generosity and your efforts the gifts that you have given to mankind, gifts that will outlive you. And I thank you, perhaps at this moment, most of all, not just for your work, but for your loving friendship that will always be precious to my Dorothy and me. God bless you, Gideon, and Judith too. Goodbye and happy, happy birthday.